All right, we're live. Let's see if the link works. Just checking on my phone. Video is not available. Maybe I did the link wrong. Share button. What did I do wrong here? I'll just go to me. Share. Here we go. This is how we'll do it. Boom. Okay, where is it? All right, we'll see if people join. We got one viewer here. It actually might be me because I clicked it.
One viewer here. It actually might be me because I clicked it.
One
viewer here. It actually might be me because I clicked one.
All right. We'll give a few more minutes for people to join the draft room. We got one person in here. We'll give a couple more. We got two in here. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know who's here. Let me know if you're liking the new format for the lives. This is because Tom and yo Matt, what up, Matt? I think Joey don't have Facebook, or there's a couple guys that don't got Facebook. I should have showed you guys my other talent. I could have eaten that whole banana in one bite. Timmy would have liked that. Matt's probably at the gym lifting and listening to the pod, listen to the draft grades. Parker might be there too. All right, at 3-minute mark, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so draft grades. Remember, this is not your team ranking. This is not me ranking your team. This is solely me ranking your draft. I'm just going to give an example here. I've already talked to him about it. Corey, for example. I thought Corey did not have a good draft, but his team is still good, right? So it's just, I think his team could have been a lot better. His team is still very solid. So it's not me ranking his team, okay? For example, I think I had a better draft than Corey, but I do not think Corey's team is better than mine. Let's say that right now. I'll be honest. Try to be unbiased here. I have not actually graded the teams yet. We're going to grade them live on the fly. You'll see me in real time thinking it through. We can embrace debate if you want. You can drop comments in the chat if you agree, disagree, and we'll go from there. So I put in the description of the video kind of what the criteria is. I'm looking at the budget, what you had to play with, what your top needs were, if you overpaid, if you got bargains, what the market was and your adjustment to the market. For example, wide receivers didn't really go for that much other than the two rookies. Running backs, there were some panic buys because running back got slim. So like that. And then just overall execution of a strategy, what your strategy was. So we'll get into it with our first team. I'm just going down my list. Okay. I'll put myself in the middle. I'm not going to put myself first or last. All right. So Tanner came in. Tanner came in with the best keepers. CJ Stroud, Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Puka, etc. Sam Laporta. We all knew the big target for Tanner was going to be Christian McCaffrey, one of those big name running backs. He ends up getting Christian McCaffrey for 87. Obviously, that's phenomenal. Other than that, he got Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis, the Jets defense, Geno Smith for 2. I thought was horrible. He could have gotten Aaron Rodgers. He got Curtis Samuel for 5, Jermaine Burton for 2, TJ Hawkinson for 4. Um, Parker. Um, TJ Hawkinson's a solid buy, but it's not. Let's get into Tanner's grade. I don't think Tanner's draft did not require much, right? His draft was get Christian McCaffrey and then see what else. Um, however, I think outside of getting McCaffrey, I don't think Tanner did exceptionally well. Amari Cooper for $30, I think is a reach. He's 30 years old. He Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson. Last year, sure, he had 1,250 yards on 72 catches. But my statistician reminded me that last year he had 260 yards in one game. So you take away that one huge game, and we're looking at a sub 1,000 yard season. Um, you also have to factor in like this is a guy that plays the Steelers twice, plays the Ravens twice, plays the Bengals twice, plays all of his games in his division outdoors. That's 6 games of the season against his own division that are outdoors. Then you factor in okay, his home team is the Browns. They are playing outdoors. That weather's shitty, not great for passing in Cleveland. So $30. There were some other buys that I think he should have been pursuing. I would have liked it more, if he had turned that Amari Cooper money, that's 30. Terry McLaurin, I think, went for an excellent price. That would have been a guy that he should have been all over was Terry McLaurin at that price. You look at who else went for a nice price? Yeah, Cooper went for 34. Cooper Cup went for 34. I saw Mark Cooper. Cooper Cup went for 34. He probably still would have been topped. DJ Moore went for 35. Let's see who else. Deontay Johnson at 13. I think that would have been really nice. So my other reasoning why is, and I know what Tanner's plan is Tanner wants to try to taxi Keaton Mitchell or Tyjae Spears, keep him on his bench all year. The other thing I had to take issue with Tanner's team is when you pay $87 for a player, you have to secure that handcuff. You just have to do it. Not only does he not have Christian McCaffrey's handcuff, he doesn't have Brees Hall's handcuff. He doesn't have Devon A-Chain's handcuff, which I don't know if there is a true handcuff there because of all the guys there. But, Brandon Ayuk went for 32. I think that would have been a better buy. I just think Tanner could have gotten more bang for his buck than going after Amari Cooper for 30. Again, but that was a result of the market at the time. I think that was one of the last big name wide receiver to come off the board. TJ Hawkinson for 4. Again, that money, sure, TJ Hawkinson's great, but he's not going to be back to like week 8, week 9. Tanner doesn't actually need TJ Hawkinson, so it's just a guy for him to trade. So we'll see what he turns him into. But he does nothing for his team. Gabe Davis, at the wide receiver 3 slot stinks. I know he likes Curtis Samuel. I like Curtis Samuel because I don't like Keon Coleman, but the turf toe, I'm a little concerned. And let's be honest, Curtis Samuel's a fine wide receiver, but it's not like he's some really good, outside wide receiver. That's not his game. And then the Bills already have Dalton Kincaid over the middle. So Curtis Samuel, I think, might have a fine season. He is not a wider. He's a fill-in wide receiver 3, maybe a flex. So I really think Tanner dropped the ball. His team could have been even better than it is. His team's already exceptional, even with the poor draft. But I think it could have been like even better, which is hard to imagine. So, for that reason, like again, it's hard to dock Tanner because he did get Christian McCaffrey, which is the main thing that he wanted to do. So whenever you go out and get your, quote unquote, your guy, it's hard to argue against it. But I think the build around the bench that he has is pretty poor. Um, so with that being said, and he's not gonna like this. And maybe I'm being generous. But no, I don't think I am because again, he got the guy he wanted. I'm gonna give Tanner a B minus. All right, so Tanner gets a B minus for all those reasons stated above. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Dan. This is gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna drink coffee. Oh, Dan. Okay, Dan made a really nice pre-draft trade to get Ramondre Stevenson. Let's look at his team. All right, so it came in with Kirk Cousins, Ramondre, Jettas, Josh Palmer, Matt Gay, Chargers defense. Needed some work to do. Ended up getting Joe Mixon for 55, which I think is fair value for Joe Mixon, especially based off of what the other running backs look. If you look at that top tier of guys, like that top 5 to 6, so like Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, like there's that top tier, right? That would be worth 70 plus, and then there's like this next tier, which almost like it's 3 guys, but there's some distinct space between the guys, especially the ones who are our draft. ETN, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon. ETN goes for 63. Joe Mixon goes for 50, or Josh Jacobs goes for 58. Joe Mixon goes for 55. So I think he paid fair price for Joe Mixon. DK Metcalf at 41. That one I don't love, especially because of what Dan ended up getting at flex with Alexander Madison. Alexander Madison's in a backup role. Alexander Madison was not very good last year. Let's be honest. He was horrible. He's purely a depth guy. There's a chance that he gets completely phased out of that offense or cut this year. They got Dylan Laub there. Like what I was just talking about with Tanner, I like Amari Cooper better for Dan's team than I do for Tanner's team. If DK Metcalf, again, very good wide receiver. You look at him consistently, he's 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. On average, that's about what he does. 2021, 967 yards, 12 tutties. 2022, 1,048 yards, 6 tutties. 2023, 1,114 yards, 8 tutties. So what you're getting with him. You're getting 1,000 to 1,100 yards and 6 to 10 touchdowns, we'll say. That's not worth $41, in my opinion, in this draft. Devontae Adams went for 36, got top for 37. Cooper Kupp went for 34. We went over a ton of guys. So if Dan had saved money there, I'm going to keep going back to Terry McLaurin because I think that was an excellent price for him. He's going to have a monster year. But you could go back to a lot of guys at wide receiver. Like I said, Deontay Johnson. Imagine if Dan got Deontay Johnson at $13 to be his wide receiver too. That's a difference of $28. You take out Madison, that's $29. He's got $29 to put something at flex. So he could have had a really nice flex. Again, Brandon Ayuk was 32. So I think that was a bad buy. I think he wanted to use his topper. I think it was a bit of I don't know if it was a panic, but I didn't like it. Kyle Pitts for 12, I thought was a nice buy. I was in on Kyle Pitts. I wanted him. At that point in the draft, given what was left, I decided I'd be willing to pay for a tight end. But I just got priced out. Again, $12. He could have a huge year. Hopefully he has a huge year for Dan. Kirk Cousins typically does put up good numbers for his tight ends, whether it was Hawkinson in Minnesota. And even before Hawkinson, they had a couple guys they would rotate in and out of the tight end that were startable in fantasy. And then even back to Washington with Logan Thomas. So yeah, I don't mind that. Alexander Madison for $1. He's $1, but he stinks. And then you look at the bench, Deshaun Watson. He didn't want Deshaun Watson. Damian Pierce looks like he's going to be like the third running back in Houston. Justice Hill in Baltimore. I do like that one. I think he's going to have a little role there. I think he could actually end up having more value as a flex than Alexander Madison. Xavier Leggett. I'm a fan of his. I think he's really good, big, fast, strong player. So we'll see how that offense goes. He still technically needs to pass Jonathan Mingo on the depth chart. So we'll see how that goes. Wandell Robinson, there's only one wide receiver worth owning in New York, and that's Malik Neighbors, and then OBJ, who's just finally gonna be able to start practicing. So like I said, I don't think this was a great. I think Dan has a pretty solid team outside of his flex. His team as a whole is pretty solid, again, outside of the flex, but that's going to be the case for a lot of teams. That flex, not everyone's going to have that number one, that sure thing at flex. But I think, just like I said, on terms of a draft, I think he definitely fumbled a little bit with the DK Metcalf. Could have gotten a lot better value elsewhere and short up. He could have had a much better flex. His team could have been really, really good. So for that, I'm gonna give Dan a C plus. Sorry, Dan. Probably don't like it. I think that's what I usually give you. You've always been a C plus student. You've made out well in life, so I think you'll be okay. But then we got Mike. Let's look at Mike's team. Mike came in, a plethora of dollar wide receivers. Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb is 60, who just got paid. You look at Mike's team, Saquon Barkley for 76. I'm fine with that. It's one of the top running backs. Brock Bowers at 8 could be a very nice buy. I am a fan of Brock Bowers. There is some concern with his foot. Definitely. You see he went for $8 in our draft. His value was 46. I did a standard redraft league the other night, Brock Bowers, and go to like the 11th, 12th round. So I'm talking, he went after all the other tight ends. People were drafting backup tight ends before they drafted him. So there's definitely concern in the football community over that foot. You got to remember he had a high ankle sprain at Georgia, got the tightrope procedure. So it's going to be interesting to see how that factors in. Plus, not to mention, Gardner Minshew is not going to be slinging it 30-plus times a game. They've got Devontae Adams. They've got Jacoby Myers. I wonder who the targets are going to. I think there will be some frustration there. I do still think long-term he's a very good player. Justin Herbert for $9. That's fine. He's going to have a down year. You got to expect a down year. He doesn't have the greatest receiving core. He's got a coach who is a run-first coach in Jim Harbaugh. You've seen it with the Niners. You've seen it with Michigan. Greg Roman, offense coordinator, comes from Baltimore over to San Diego. We know Greg Roman likes to pound the rock. They brought both of the running backs from Baltimore over to LA. Hold on a second. I gotta join this work call. They don't actually need me on this call, but I have to be there. 1 second. I'll join on my phone so I can keep doing the live. I'll turn the volume down.
We do need to do one marketing as part of a 2B. We do need to do one marketing review. Be the next CER. Hoping to likely move that from October to January, and then I added a couple of months there of buffer. Same thing, either DR3 or DR4. Likely a DR4, right? Because that's the official.
Okay. Hopefully they don't watch this. That's okay, I'm there. I can multitask. That's why I'm a nurse. All right. Anyways, back to Mike. And then Mike does his usual, bullshit where he just Googles rookies or pulls up whatever rookies on his little phone or laptop. Sorry, laptop, and just sees what rookies there are. His entire bench is rookies. We're talking 40% of Mike's team are rookies. I do like Ray Davis. He's $5. I think there's going to be a role for him in that Buffalo offense. Keon Coleman at 19. I think he'll end up starting him over Wicks or Mingo. I don't like Keon Coleman at all, and I don't like Keon Coleman for $19. This is a guy who in practices and in camp has had a hard, and in preseason games had a hard time gaining separation. He is big, he might score some touchdowns, but he only runs a 4.61. Like, that's what I'm saying is he doesn't really separate. He did score 11 touchdowns last year, but he only had 658 yards on 51 catches on 87 targets. So, again, I think he's solid. He might score, but he might just be like N'Keal Harry 2.0. So, I don't like that one at all. Roman Wilson for $2. That could be pretty solid. He hasn't played this preseason, but definitely I like his talent. He should end up being the number 2 guy there behind Chase Pickens. Adonai Mitchell. I do like Adonai Mitchell. I don't know how many targets there will be for him, especially once Josh Downs is healthy. Their offense coordinator made the comment, hey, we still got Alec Pierce too. He's solid. But I do think that Mitchell is a talented guy. And then Malachi Corley stinks. My Jets beat writer Tanner tells me Malachi Corley stinks, and he's like their team's wide receiver 5. And it doesn't really like him anymore. So for Mike's team, you look at what he needed. He needed a quarterback. He needed some more sure things at wide receiver because he was keeping CeeDee Lamb and Jaden Reed, which I do like Jaden Reed, but they rotate a lot of guys there. So I think I think Reed will be solid. I don't know if he's a RB or a wide receiver 2 or whatever, but I'm sure Mike paid wide receiver 2 money for Keon Coleman, which I don't think he's a wide receiver 2. I like the Brock Bowers buy, and then Mike just doesn't have a bench. He's got a lot of rookies and unproven guys. So I'm trying to think right now is like, do I like Dan's team more than Mike's, or Mike's draft more than Dan's, or Dan's draft more than Mike's? Because I'm trying to think of who we could have got instead of Keon Coleman at 19 if he repurposed some of the money. There wasn't really much money to be maneuvered. I mean, Jared Goff went for 4. Aaron Rodgers went for 2. I would rather have Aaron Rodgers for 2 than Justin Herbert for 9. So you could make that argument, save $7 there. Keon Coleman, 19, you turn that into 26. Terry McLaurin's in play. My only knock on Mike is the Keon Coleman and all the rookies. I'll go B-. Again, that's my only knock. It's hard to knock you too far when you get, your running back that you set out for in the draft. Okay, we'll go next. We'll go Corey. So I already alluded to Corey's a little bit. A little disappointed in Corey's draft. It could have been, him and I talked on the phone at length numerous times about what we thought was the best draft plan. He got caught up in some bidding wars, lost, and I think he panicked a little bit. Corey came in with a lot of keepers: Anthony Richardson, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Demario Douglas, Dalton Schultz, Baker Mayfield, Zach Charbonnet. He ends up paying $37 for Devontae Smith, which I think was an overpay. We talk about DK Metcalf being an overpay at $41, Devontae Smith at 37. This is a guy who's done something similar, and he is the second option in that offensive passing game. Never eclipsed. Last year's 1,066 yards and 7 touchdowns. Again, at $37, Devontae Adams went for $37. I'd rather have Devontae Adams, I'd rather have Terry McLaurin, I'd rather have Brandon Ayuk, I'd rather have all those guys that went way cheaper. Xavier Worthy at 23. That's an interesting one because if Xavier Worthy is Tyreek Hill 2.0, then Corey got the steal of the draft. But if Xavier Worthy is Sky Moore, that's the worst buy of the draft. I don't think he's as bad as Sky Moore. This is a guy that they traded up to bump ahead of Buffalo to get him. Marquise Brown is going to miss, so he's going to have an opportunity early in the season. I like what I see in camp that they're using him not in just like going straight downfield. They're having him run some routes. Obviously, Rashee Rice and Kelsey there. Everybody talks about, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Buffalo or in Chicago, blah, blah, blah. The one thing we know about the Chiefs is they will rotate their receivers. They did it last year. They do it every year. So I don't know if I love Xavier Worthy for 23. But you look at the price of rookie wide receivers. I don't know where Corey had him ranked. I didn't have him ranked as the number 3 rookie wide receiver. So moving on, James Conner for 44. I thought for sure James Conner was going for under 35. That was another one. I think it was a panic buy by Corey. Is that you look at the board and you see, okay, James Conner and like Najee Harris, the only 2 guys left, and it's like I don't want Najee Harris. With all due respect for Najee Harris, Connor's always been very good. I was offering up pre-draft for $24 as a keeper. Nick obviously got him, didn't keep him, threw him back, but it looks like $24 would have been an extremely good value over the 44 that he went for in the draft. Moving on, Corey drafted Dallas's defense for $3, which, sure, say what you want. I think that's terrible. There was when Corey was trying to get defense, Baltimore's defense went for $1. There's a lot of defenses that went for $1. I think Dallas was the only one that went for more than $1, or maybe San Fran went for $2. But still, don't pay money for a defense. Nobody else was. Jaden Daniels for $7. So I love Jaden Daniels. I do. But why are we paying $7 for a backup quarterback when you have Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield was a top 12 quarterback last year. He threw for 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 10 picks. His numbers were very similar to Jordan Love, who we are talking about as a top 12 quarterback potentially. There's no need for him to get Jaden Daniels, especially when he's got Anthony Richardson as his quarterback. Now, if you're planning on trading him for a keeper, or not for a keeper, but for some studs, that's one thing. But everyone's got quarterbacks right now. And the other thing with Jaden Daniels is this shows me that Corey has no confidence in Anthony Richardson. He let all of the pre-draft shit talking about Anthony Richardson get to his head. We got Zach Charbonnet kept Rome Odunze again, 17. I don't mind Rome Odunze for 17. I like that better than Xavier Worthy for 23. If Xavier Worthy was $17, that's probably better. Rome Odunze, I don't know. He's going to be the third option there. Keenan Allen does have a history of getting injured. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze obviously seemed like they're going to be a match made in heaven going forward. So we'll see. Deontay Johnson was 13. I kind of like that more. But again, we buying into the rookie hype. He got Tyler Lockett for $5. I feel like Corey always ends up with Tyler Lockett. Sure, he's okay. $5, that's fine. Overall, though, Corey had the potential to come in and have a draft where he came away with a top 5 running back and a top 10 available wide receiver in the draft, and he didn't do either of those things. He didn't get either of those things. So I really don't like Corey's draft. But again, like I said, his team is still solid, very solid. I think it's better than my team. It's deep. He's got guys on the bench. He's got some rookies he can trade. Um, he's got three good running backs. His receivers are going to be iffy, really iffy, because there's weeks where Devontae Smith goes AWOL and AJ Brown eats, and then um, sorry Corey, I got to give you a D, bud. A D. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything real quick.
Michelle is always asking for us to do additional testing. She wants us to do a test against contender product, which for the PFL systems are not available. That's really clearly available for us as availability system. Now, the compromise is like, look, we can put one on our home use system. We can do a side-by-side test of the same stuff and show the potency that we're saying. That has to be added to the test planners when we do it. That should always be there. And, it's like, Sean, you just got tripped up because you didn't know about that.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a headphone in. Be in two places at once, My apologies for the slight delay. Like I said, I've got to make sure I'm in two places at one time, which I can do. So make sure it doesn't turn on my mic. Okay, perfect. All right, moving on. Sorry about that, fellas. Moving on to Logan. Logan made some moves pre-draft. Let's look at what he got during the draft. Got Caleb Williams for 6, Cooper Kupp for 34, Dale Goddard for 2, Josh Jacobs for 58, Will Shipley for $1, Audric Estime for $1, Jordan Addison for 14, Brandon Cooks for 3, Darius Slayton for $1. I think Logan had a really good draft. Right? He came in keeping Aaron Jones, Devin Singletary, drafted Josh Jacobs, topped Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp went early. He pounced on him. He got him for 34. I think that's an excellent buy. People will say Caleb Williams at quarterback is a big risk. He only paid $6 for him, though. Sure, he could have paid $2 for Aaron Rodgers, but there's potential for Logan to have his quarterback for the next 2 to 3 seasons. And Caleb Williams, Dale Goddard for 2 is fine. Brandon Cooks for 3, I like that a lot. Jordan Addison at 14 could be really good. I do expect him to get suspended. Everything I've read, he's got a court date in October. Would end up setting him for about a 3-game suspension in like week 7 through 10 or something like that. So somewhere in that range, but that's fine. He's got he's got Addison on his bench. He doesn't actually need him. He does have some depth. He's got some injuries he's dealing with. Marquise Brown is injured right now. Christian Kirk is nursing a mild calf injury. So he's got his wide receiver 1 in Kupp. I think Brown will be a wide receiver 2. Healthy. Christian Kirk at wide receiver 3 is very good. I think he's just got a very solid team overall. Again, I love the Cooper Kupp purchase. I don't know if this is quite an A yet. I don't even know if we have any A drafts. We might. I don't know. Is this an A draft? It might be. It might be an A minus. It might be an A minus. I'm going to give him an A minus. I thought he did a really nice job. All right, let's move on to Pizzo. Pizzo got Josh Allen for 37, Jonathan Taylor for 71, Ben Sinnott for $1, Adam Thielen for 4, Justin Fields at backup for $1, AJ Dillon for $2, Mike Williams for 7, Demarcus Robinson for $1, Hunter Henry for $1, Zach Ertz for $1. He did, he was there to draft 2 tight ends, and then when he left, he said, "I'd give me wide receiver and tight end." So that's why I ended up with Hunter Henry. I thought Josh Allen 37 was about what he would go for. Jonathan Taylor 71, he uses top round. I thought that was a good buy. Adam Thielen at 4. I like Adam Thielen for $4. Between him and Mike Williams, I think he'll be fine at flex. I think but Mike Williams always gets hurt. Adam Thielen is 34. I don't know what his role will be, if he'll be in the slot or whatever. But remember, Adam Thielen's coming off a season where he had 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pizzo's putting a lot of trust in Rashad Bateman to perform for him. I think Pizzo did a very solid job. When you got Jonathan Taylor and Josh Allen, they're going to carry a lot of weight. The bench remains to be seen. If Justin Fields ends up being QB1 in Pittsburgh, that could be a nice guy to keep. Solid. Pizzo was solid. I'm gonna give him a B. There's nothing that I look at his draft and go, "Ugh, he paid too much" or whatever. But there's also nothing where it makes me excited. So I think he's a B. He just did a solid job. Then we go on to Parker. I'm not even gonna say Deontay because Parker did all the work. Parker kind of thrown into the fire and did an excellent job. He came in with a ton of keepers, ton of money. So let's look at what he got. He got DJ Moore for 35, which is 3 below what he could have been kept, so solid value there. I think he got the topper used on him. Alvin Kamara for 51. I don't love Alvin Kamara non-PPR. That's just me. But now you're looking at running backs: Jahmyr Gibbs, Jerome Ford, Alvin Kamara. Now I know he did make a trade with Jerome Ford, but I think that's a really good group of running backs. He got Antonio Gibson for 7, which I don't like at all. It's a horrible offensive line. He's Ramondre Stevens proven he can catch passes. I don't like Antonio Gibson for 7 at all. Marshawn Lloyd at $2. I know Parker really wanted him. He's opening the season on the PUP list, but he's $2. And Josh Jacobs, I don't know. $2 is fine for a rookie running back. I'm not going to make any comments on that. DJ Shark at $1 with the Chargers. He's been injured. Someone's got to catch passes for the Chargers, so you might as well take a flyer on it. Jerry Jeudy is 7. I think that's a pretty good buy. Who knows how that'll go? Everyone has these lofty expectations for Deshaun Watson. We saw prime Deshaun Watson with Houston support 2 really good wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cooks. It'll be interesting to see if they can do that in Cleveland. Heavy running team. We'll see if Jerry Jeudy is actually good or if he was just affected by horrible quarterback play the last couple of years. Because Deshaun Watson, while I don't think is very good, I think he's better, and I think that offense is better than what Denver had been running out there for the last 2 years. Then Terry McLaurin, I think, is one of the best buys of the draft at $23, especially with the departure of Jahan Dotson. I don't know who's been following closely, but their offensive coordinator is Cliff Kingsbury. They've been lining up Terry exclusively on the left side of the line of scrimmage at wide receiver, out wide, which is what they used to do with DeAndre Hopkins. And we saw what prime DeAndre Hopkins used to do in Arizona. I mean, Houston then to Arizona. That's what he wants to do. So I think he's going to have a monster season. I think that's one of the best buys of the draft, like I said. So good job by Parker to grab him for $23. I really wanted him. Again, You look at the running backs who went for under 51 compared to Alvin Kamara. I look at some of the money spent. Would I have gotten Antonio Gibson? No, I would have taken that away. That means he could get up to $58 instead of that. So he could have got a mix in. He could have got Josh Jacobs, maybe. So I do think it was a really good draft, especially based off of what he needed. I'm gonna give him DJ Moore for 35. I like that a lot. I like DJ Moore. Gonna give him an A. Gonna give him an A. I think he did excellent. We'll do Mason, and then we'll throw me in the mix. So Mason, Mason was keeping quite a bit of high end players. Joe Burrow for 29. Derrick Henry for 73. And then Stanford defense for 2. Trevor Lawrence for 4, Khalil Herbert for 2, Elijah Mitchell for 2, Rashid Shaheed for 3, Quentin Johnson for 4, Troy Franklin. The only guy I don't like out of all of that is Troy Franklin for $1. I don't think Quentin Johnson is good, but like I just said about DJ Shark, somebody's got to catch passes there. It can't just be Lad McConkey, or Josh Palmer. And I don't know how much I trust them. So someone's going to emerge there. I think they're going to give Johnston at least an opportunity to succeed or fail. I don't think the leash is going to be long. But he's going to get the opportunity. Troy Franklin just flat out stinks. He had a hard camp. He's not very good. He's like 5th or 6th on the depth chart. He's the only one, but Khalil Herbert for 2, absolutely. DeAndre Swift has gotten injured before and has never really handled a quote-unquote full workload. We saw last year that they like to mix in Kenneth Gainwell. Trevor Lawrence for $4 will be a good backup. To be honest, I like Trevor. He would have been fine rolling with Trevor Lawrence as starter for 4, even though I hate Trevor Lawrence. Jared Goff went for 4, Purdy went for 7, Joe Burrow went for 29. Joe Burrow doesn't run the ball. He could have ended up getting. He could have ended up getting a better flex. Maybe he could have been in on Christian McCaffrey, but if Derrick Henry was his guy, then it's fine. I think he has a really good draft. His team is obviously really fucking good. I don't have any knocks. I don't know why he thinks he drafted like poo. Like I said, Joe Burrow's the only one that I don't like because he could have saved money there and got something else. But I think he drafted an excellent bench. He only needed to draft 2 starting position players, running back 1, which he didn't really need a running back 1 because he had Kyren Williams if he believes in Kyren, but in Joe Burrow. So I think Mason again I think he did a really good job too. I'm gonna give him an A. I thought he did well. I don't think he was expecting that, but we'll go me now. Obviously I came in the draft keeping all my wide receivers. I did have a fallback plan of moving Jacoby Myers to flex and drafting a wide receiver 3 if the prices shook out that way, which that ended up being the case. Brock Purdy for 7, I love that. I had a $12 price tag on him. I was willing to go up to 12. Travis Etienne, used my topper on him. I think he's on the cusp of joining that top group of guys. If they get some improved offensive line play. I had a $65 number on him. J.K. Dobbins is 17. That's the one that, I don't love, and I'm sure you guys don't love. It's my season probably hinges on his success and failure. I will probably go as he goes. If he does well, my team will do well, and if he doesn't do well, my team won't do well. I know they brought him over to be, the co-starting running back with Gus Edwards. It's going to be a run-heavy offense. If the Chargers run the ball 30 times a game, because I know that's what Harbaugh likes to do, is 30 to 40 times a game. That's his goal. If that happens and Dobbins is getting 15 of those carries, I will be very happy with that. I'm sure that is realistic. He seems healthy. He got the same procedure done as Aaron Rodgers. Seems to be holding up fine. So, we'll see. It's a big if, but $17, I didn't overpay for I don't think I grossly overpaid for a running back. $17 is you can swallow that pill. Greg Dulcich for $1. Bo Nix. I wanted Kyle Pitts. I was going to reinvest my money that I had left over in this tight end. Pitts has looked really good in camp. He was had a lot of hype around him 2 years ago. As a rookie, got hurt. He's still there. Sean Payne historically has had good tight ends in his offense. You look at Jimmy Graham. He's got Bo Nix. He's finally getting the guys that he wants in starting positions. So there's some really big potential there for Greg. We'll see. Again, it's $1, so it's not like I spent a bunch of money on it. I was not planning on spending money on a tight end. I tried to pivot to get Pitts because there was money to be spent. Did get him, which is fine. Brian Thomas, my favorite pick of the draft for myself. I know a lot of other people wanted him. They love that price point for $13. Again, he's going to be the Jags' leading wide receiver. I can guarantee it. Well, not including Evan Ingram. But from the receivers there, he's going to be the best receiver there. He's going to lead that team and the receivers there in yards and touchdowns. I can almost guarantee it. He's phenomenal, and then you look at what LSU does, putting pro-ready rookies into the NFL. So Brian Thomas for 13, he was a guy I circled that if I wasn't going to be able to get a third running back, that was the guy I was getting to put a wide receiver 3 and bump Jacoby Myers to flex. Tyrone Tracy for 7. Devin Singletary is fine, but he's not excellent. So I think if this is a team playing for the kind of trying to look to the future with the Giants, I think that Tyrone Tracy's got an avenue to playing time. That's a team that's going to want to run the ball a lot, so Daniel Jones doesn't have to throw it a lot. So $7 was fine with me paying. Tank Bigsby, again, I invested that big money in ETN. I was making damn sure that I got Tank Bigsby. I was surprised I got him for $1. I got him before I got Tracy because I wanted to make sure I had the money to get Tank. I would have gone up to 5-6 to get Tank to make sure I had that handcuff. Jalen Polk for 4, another one I'm real excited about. Going to be wide receiver 1 or 2 there for New England. And if Drake May's the quarterback, which it looks like he will be or will be at some point during the season, I think that only kicks his value up. So yeah, there's nothing that I'm really putting a lot of eggs in the J.K. Dobbins basket. But if you look at my draft, I didn't have a fucking Trey Sermon like I have in the past. I didn't pay like $50 for Brock Purdy. I got Travis Etienne at a good price. I got Brian Thomas, I think, at a steal. I executed what I set out to do, pretty much. I wanted to pay 35 or less for my RB2. I did have, I could show you my target sheet. I know Kevin saw it, so he knows who's on there. I had my RB2 targets were Javonte Williams and Najee Harris, 1-2. Those are my 1-2, and J.K. Dobbins was on my list. He was actually my sixth option there at RB2, and again, $30 is what I had written down, and I got him. So I executed that. I wasn't going to pay money for a tight end unless it made sense. So I think I executed my plan. I think it's one of my better drafts. I don't think. All right, now Tom's first draft. Tom's first draft with the boys. He got in the probably the funnest, the most fun bidding war of draft day with Malik Neighbors and him and Corey going back and forth. Neighbors for 47 is crazy, but it could be worth it. Brandon Ayuk for 32, I think, was an excellent buy. Again, Tom kept most of his starters. The only starter he drafted in this draft was his kicker. He didn't actually need to draft any starting positions based off of keepers. Now, he doesn't want to run all those guys out there, but Drake May for $1 could be really good. He looked good this preseason. Nick Chubb at 26 is going to be really good in that second half of the season for him, hopefully. Blake Corum at 13. One of my bold takes, my hot takes is that Blake Corum is that starting running back spot by like week 9, week 8, week 9. I think Blake Corum is significantly more talented than Kyren Williams. Like Kyren Williams is slow. He's not very quick. He does have decent vision. He's a one-cut back. He usually falls forward, but he's not special. Blake Corum is fucking good. He can be very special. And we have seen the Rams not give a fuck about what a running back has done in the past. If you're not putting up, you're getting put on the bench. And Kyren does have an injury history. I'm sure they're going to try to keep him fresh. He might get hurt. Blake Corum, great buy, 13. Kamani Vidal, I know there's people who like him. There's people who don't. I know he was a healthy scratch. He's a 6th-round pick. I think he's a solid ball player. They officially have him listed as 4th on their depth chart. He's behind Jarrett Patterson. I don't think he's going to have a role there this year. So I think Tom did a good job. Neighbors is probably an overpay at 47, let's be honest. But that was his guy, he said. That was his guy. So I'm coming in here, I'm getting Malik Neighbors. That's the guy I want. He got him. He got a great bargain on Brandon Ayuk. Got a great buy on Nick Chubb. Blake Corum at 13. I think Tom did a good job. I'm going to give Tom an A-. Tom did an excellent job. Good job, Tom. All right, moving on to Matt. Matt had a lot of work to do. He made a really nice move pre-draft. Shout out to me for suggesting that offer from Shane. I said I'm going to take credit for it. I told Shane to offer Matt that. I thought that made a lot of sense. Shane was getting cabin fever, waiting for draft day. So I'm like, why don't you try this? And it worked. I think it was a great trade for both, to be honest. I know Matt was probably looking for some more to fill more roster spots. Not to mention, I'm sure Matt was starting to sweat a little bit about Jamar Chase. So he's got Waddle, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, and Njoku coming in the draft. Like, that's phenomenal. Hold on, I'm going to have to speak on this call here in a second, I think. We'll let them keep talking. I'll say my name in a second here. Got Pat Mahomes for 35, uses Topper. He made that pre-draft trade to get Patrick Mahomes. My only problem with that, and obviously Pat Mahomes is a stud. Playoff Pat, he fucking sucks, though. Matt had a lot. He paid too much money for quarterback when he had too many holes that I think he needed more running back. Javonte Williams at 47, I think was an overpay. I had Javonte targeted, but I thought that was a guy that should have went for 35 or less. Again, there was just some, not panic buys, but it's like the position scarcity really drove up his price. Trey Benson at 14, I think is better fit as a flex, but Matt unfortunately has to put him at RB2. I don't think Trey Benson is really good. So we'll see. James Conner does get hurt for a few weeks every single year, so who knows? He could get something there. He's gonna have to get. Matt's gonna really be putting a lot of a weight on the shoulders of his receivers. He did draft Keenan Allen for 15, which I think is a nice buy. You know what you're getting with Keenan Allen. Very consistent year in and year out. Going to be very reliable for Caleb Williams. You got Baltimore's defense for $1. I think that's an excellent purchase. Bench Derek Carr. I'm not going to judge on the backup quarterback, but he fucking sucks. Jamal Williams is going to be the backup there. Their coach hates Kendrick Miller. So Jamal Williams could be in store for a nice season. Maybe he might be in store for a season close to 2022 if he stays healthy. Trey Sermon, I think he's back on waivers, but he's Jonathan Taylor's backup. Khalil Shakir for $8. I actually like Khalil Shakir a lot. There's a lot of good reports coming out of him in the offseason. He was kind of a guy that people were talking about last year as a sleeper. He is listed as the number one wide receiver on the depth chart. So I think he could be a nice little sleeper for Matt. Give him a little trade, some trade opportunity. I think James Conner has 1 year left on his deal. I could see Matt trying to swing a trade later on in the season with Trey Benson and Khalil Shakir or something like that. Jalen McMillan, that's another one. Looks like he won the third wide receiver job for the Bucks. I think that's a nice get there for $2 in the deal. And Tolbert for $1 is a nice sleeper. He's been killing it in camp as well. I think he'll take over that number 2 wide receiver over Brandon Cooks. What's that? Nope. I think Reagan kind of covered the work I've been doing with them. So yeah, the only thing I don't like again is Patrick Mahomes for 35, Trey Benson for 14. Matt, yeah, it's not horrible. You know, he's got some good players. Keenan Allen is a good flex. I'm not even gonna say he's a bad flex. Like Keenan Allen's a good flex. He's a wide receiver too. He's got him a flex. Gonna need a huge season from Javonte. Trey Benson, I don't like. I'm gonna give Matt. Like I said, I think the one thing he could have done differently was paid less at quarterback. Again, he could have gotten, Trevor Lawrence went for 4, Brock Purdy for 7, Jared Goff went for 4. We're talking 30 extra bucks that he could have repurposed into a running back too. Like Trey Benson was 14, so he put 30 on the Benson. That's $44. Could have gotten something a little different. I'm gonna give Matt a B-. I think that's fair. Matt, tell me what you think. If you agree, disagree. If you're still on. Nick, let's look at Nick did. We're not even going to talk about what Nick did after the draft. I think Nick got drunk on the golf course with his dad and made a mistake. So Nick, Jonathan Brooks for 44. That was driven up really by Shane. Shane saved a ton of money at quarterback. I know Shane was planning on paying decent money at a quarterback for either Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. He ended up bowing out of that and then saving even more money because I know he had penciled in around $12 for Goff. He ended up getting him for 4. So Brooks goes for 44, but he's just got put on the pup list. Excuse me. Which I think is for a team that really needed running backs. Like Nick's going to need to try over the first 4 weeks before Brooks comes back. Nick's got to find a way to go 2-2. Deontay Johnson, 13, I think was a really good buy. Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Love that. Can I like that? Oh yeah, there we go. Matt, and then Nick actually took an interesting take on the draft and got Mark Andrews for 21 and Travis Kelce for 35. Which, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, these are guys that typically put up wide receiver 1 numbers. And both of them went fairly cheaper than those top options. I thought that was an excellent job by Nick to go for those two. Deontay Johnson for 13. Jahan Dawson at 2, whatever. He's going to be on the bench. Nick, he at that point, he was $1 guys, right? Like Gardner Minshew $1, Clyde Edwards-Helaire $1, Miles Sanders $1, Kendrick Bourne $1, Tyler Boyd $2. I liked Tyler Boyd. I don't know why he dropped him. I like Tyler Boyd in that starting lineup over Jahan Dawson. And then K. Dotton for $1, his third tight end. I think Nick actually did a pretty solid job in the draft, understanding the market, pivoting to get those 2 tight ends for a decent price. But I think he really overpaid for Jonathan Brooks. But I don't know what money he would have had to go and get a running back that he liked. Nice, close on. Hey, thanks, Tom. I do gotta be done with this though in 15 minutes. Because that call I can't do that for. So yeah, he his second trade he made was great, but again, we're not here to comment on that. What am I gonna give Nick? I'm gonna give Nick a B minus as well. Again, I don't know. I'm trying to think what else he could have got. Let's look at running back drafted. James Conner was 44, the same price as Jonathan Brooks. I would have rather have seen him spend the 44 on a guy that's actually going to play early in the year. Austin Eckler went for 21. Dobbins went for 17. He could have got those two for that price, for the price of one. Keep looking. Javonte went for 47, but he wouldn't have been able to afford him. Najee went for 36. Yeah, like that's it's tough. That's tough. So it's tough to criticize that when the options below that. His best bet would have been going like Eckler, Dobbins, or even like Nick Chubb went for 26, or even Chubb and Dobbins, because you still get that injured guy that's coming back. Plus, you get the healthy guy. So again, I just think B minus I think is perfectly fair for Nick. Kevin, let's look at Kevin's team. I need to wrap this up. I gotta go to the bathroom. Kevin, I knew coming in he wanted to get one of those big name quarterbacks, and he did for 37. Jalen Hurts. Hurts is the one guy out of all those top four guys that were in the draft that has the highest likelihood, I think, of having a dud of a year. But his rushing upside is very high. Kevin got a nice buy with Christian Watson for $12. I thought DeAndre Swift at 51. That's a fair price for him. I don't love it. I think he's more of a $40 guy. But again, Swift was 51 last year. He could have been kept for 51. So, there's no kind of criticism there. Bo Nix for 3. Whatever. Tyler Algier for 9 to solid-ish buy. He's going to put Algier at flex. I know there's tons of reports and chatter of having Algier have a significant role still and blah, blah, blah. But there's no way. Dylan Laub, whatever, nothing. Luke Musgrave. Kevin drafted 3 tight ends. It was a combined $5, but and 2 defenses. So that's kind of gross. He got the guy he wanted. I don't think it was a great draft. It was not a horrible draft. I think it's closer to a below average draft. I know Kevin has regrets about getting DeAndre Swift for 51. I would have regrets about that too. I would like him though on my team now. I think Kevin falls into that same range as Dan with a C+. Griffin drafting for Joey. Griffin was running the show, as he said. Let's look what he picked up in the draft. Ladd McConkey for 14. Again, Xavier Worthy goes for 23. Ladd McConkey 14. I think that's a great buy in comparison to that. Bijan Robinson for 81. Chance to finish as the number 1 running back. I think he'll finish in that top 3 should he stay healthy all year. Jason Myers, Kansas City defense. Aaron Rodgers for 2. That's a great buy for $2. Should have a good year, good trade candidate, good backup for you. Braylon Allen at 5, I think is a little crazy. Only value there is if Breece Hall gets hurt. And if he does, then Braylon Allen is to the moon. DeAndre Hopkins for 9. Going on value because Hopkins was hurt. I'm looking to see what you could combine. I think Ricky Pearsall for 4 was crazy. I'm a Niners fan. I think that's crazy. I think even if Ayuk does get traded, Pearsall will not have a huge role. We rarely see rookie wide receivers make an impact in that offense in year one. You look at Ayuk, he didn't really come around until year 2 with the Niners. Year 2 with the Niners, he was in the doghouse year one. He had to learn. Got to learn to block Kyle Shanahan's system. Luke McCaffrey at 1 could be a really nice buy. They did finally bump him up. The previous report was McCaffrey has not emerged as an obvious top 4 wide receiver to open the season. That was even with the trade of Dotson, but it looks like now they've put him in that top 3. So good for them getting him. Jatavian Sanders, dollar flyer, freak athlete, tight end. I think Griffin did a really good job getting some good value. They kept a lot of money. They got Bijan. I think they did pretty solid. I think it's very similar to Logan's. They got what they needed. They got some good bench, some good depth, paid some good prices. I like the Lad McConkey buy. I'm going to give him an A-. Good job, Griff. Shane, let's look at Shane. Shane came into the draft keeping 3 of the best wide receivers, 2 of the best wide receivers in the game. Keeping Rico Dowdle, Chase Brown. He's really banking on them. Chuba Hubbard, who he has traded. But look what he paid. He gets Devontae Adams for 37 off the rip. I thought that was a great buy. He had to jump at that. I know he did not have plans on getting Devontae Adams, but he could not pass at the value to top him to get him for 37. He has since obviously traded for Tyreek Hill. Jared Goff for 4, I think, is a great buy. As I said, Shane and I talked pre-draft about what he would pay for a quarterback. So getting Goff for 4 was phenomenal, which allowed him to make some other buys. Najee Harris for 36, great buy given the running back market. Stephon Diggs for 41, again another one. I know he doesn't love it, but I think Diggs is gonna be worth that this year. I'm gonna give Shane an A. I think Shane did a great job. He drafted very well, did everything he needed to do, got what he needed. He pivoted a little bit and got it done. Hey, Joe, you guys got an A-. Griffin did a great job for you. And then we're going to go on to Tim, and then I have to go to the bathroom. The player rankings will have to be later or another time. Tim got Lamar Jackson for 37, Marvin Harrison for 50. There's 3 guys in that draft that could be top 10 wide receivers. I think Cooper Kupp, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. So paying $50 for a potential top 10 wide receiver is not crazy, right? Tua for 2, Eckler for 21, Bucky Irvin for 4, Rashad White's handcuff. Maybe he takes over. Jalen Wright for 13, I think, is a little crazy. That one I don't like. That's going to bump him down 1. And then Taysom Hill, he sniped Shane. He got Taysom Hill for 3. Tim's team is good. He had a good draft. Lamar Jackson, his team is great top to bottom, I think. I just didn't like the Jalen Wright buy. But again, that's on his bench. He had fuck you money. I'm going to give Tim an A- as well. Great job. That's it. I will post the grades in the chat for us to debate about. Thanks for tuning in. I have to go to the bathroom. I will get I'll do team rankings later. Who I think has the best team. Thanks, y'all. Peace out.